Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to today's reading where we are going to take a look into kind of the next installment of this story that we've been following and this story that's kind of been developing for us. So if you've been along with us on this ride, you've been on a little bit of a roller coaster here lately. And so if not, if you're new here, go ahead and just jump in, see if it resonates with you. It's going to be a general reading for this collective. So if it's not going to resonate with everybody, and it shouldn't. But if it does resonate with you, then maybe go back and see a little bit farther back in the story to see a few more messages that will have come out then. And then also, make sure that you subscribe and like so that you'll be able to see future installments of the story. And I think I'm going to use this as my main deck. We're going to go ahead and get started by looking at the energy that's happening between the two of you. So remember yesterday we saw that energy with them where they were kind of still hiding behind that fact that they can just, they put one foot in and one foot out, and they can kind of get in and out really quickly. And so they have some comfort in that, having a very hard time determining how they want to move forward, because that also, doesn't allow them to move forward. Okay, so we have the Devil card coming out, and remember yesterday the Devil came out in the Devil card, and with that Devil energy came out in the main portion of it was that energetic and emotional backdrop. It was kind of this same portion of the reading because there was something, there was a fear about letting go of control, a need for both of you to let go of something that was going to enable you to get out from under the control of some kind of devil energy that otherwise seems like it just won't quit. So this is quitting smoking, or this is quitting that obsessive thinking about one another, or this is, it's that sort of thing. It's got that energy of won't let go of you, but there's something that you get to let go of that you are capable of letting go of. That was another thing that we learned. Maybe it's not clear how or what it is, or, that sort of thing, but you are capable of doing it. It's not something that is too much to ask. It's just something that you'll go, oh, okay, no, I can do that. It's reframing something. It's going to involve reframing something, and then you'll be able to get out from under the control of what this is. So that's kind of a big deal. You've got that Knight of Cups coming towards you. So that is conversation coming towards you, communication coming towards you. I wonder which one that is, because remember, you have your person who has that, they're having a hard time getting over the activation energy regarding a transformation, remember, and you're on the edge of it. Or they're on the edge of it. And so it's kind of, they have to get over that in order to have the right conversation with you that will open things up. But you also had some other kind of soulmate that you didn't see coming heading your direction. So you may be dealing with multiple people who have, look at this, options. You may be dealing with multiple people who have a significant impact on your life. And from that definition of the term soulmate, so this is not all, of course, people that you would spend all of eternity with. This is more so in the way that this feels, you would have multiple soulmates, multiple people who help to guide you along the way, but not all of them are the same. Not all of the relationships are the same. Not all of the lessons are the same. So with this divine masculine with whom you share this devil energy, that something just really, you're having a hard time letting go of something that's going to allow this to control you less. That divine masculine, the lessons that you're getting with that soulmate are some really deep and intense lessons. You have other soulmates who are teaching you lessons as well that are kind of complementary to that. And as we saw yesterday in the extended reading, some of what you're learning there kind of is only possible because of what you learned with this divine masculine, but you're still learning with the divine masculine. So I don't know which one of them is coming forth to talk with you. But there is that energy of both options, which is what we have here with the Seven of Cups, and communication headed your direction. Communication and energy of action. It's not just communication. It shows up with a some sort of action, some sort of consequence, and I don't think it's necessarily a negative consequence. It's just cause and effect as a consequence of something else. There's something gets into motion there. So you have the Three of Chalices. This represents third party energy, but it's also not necessarily, a lot of times, I feel like I should clarify, a lot of times the third party energy has come in kind of, maybe a little intense here lately, but always has this negative element to it. This is not necessarily the same third party. So if we've been getting a lot of intense negativity from like their primary, like their spouse, if you've got a person that you're dealing with who is married, this could be their job and it could be more positive, but also a third party sort of energy. I mean, I'm just saying it's not necessarily negative. It is third party energy. It is theirs. So it plays into this. It's part of the lesson, that I will say. So it may not be negative. It may not be the same third party that we often hear about, but it is something that impacts this relationship between the two of you, which is part of what makes it third party energy. And it is something that is decidedly helping out with the lesson. We also have the Knight of Chalices. Okay, so the Knight of Chalices is that same energy as the Knight of Cups. It's that water energy, and this feels a little bit more action oriented, where this one back here that came out of the other deck feels a little bit more communication and oriented. Knights are cards of action, though. That's what that concept is. But we see feeling of togetherness, a feeling of partnership, and a feeling of strength. This is power couple sort of. I mean, I know that's a kind of a buzz term, but it really, what I think of when I hear that term is what I feel when I see this Two of Chalices. So it's Two of Cups partnership energy, but it's like really strong partnership. Like you can handle anything back to back to one another. It's that kind of strength. But then with with the King of Swords, this is about some recognition that it's not realistic. Something isn't realistic. Something would have to change. And I don't get the sense that it can't change. I get the sense that it's not realistic. Somebody perceives it as unrealistic for things to change in both of your, like, in order to move into a direction of greater reconciliation with your relationship. I don't know that it is in any way related to this Three of Chalices, though. Okay. So we have the Ten of Pentacles talking about things that are like they're happening and changing in the relationship right now. No, not in the relationship so much as it's more their backdrop, their life, the things that make their life a place to live. So it's going to be their whole lifestyle stands to change as a result of something that's creating a big wave. So we've seen evidence of this, and I wonder if it's the same thing, because it kind of has that same feel to it of the thing that we saw where something is ending that feels like it's not supposed to end, and it feels like it's making significant waves of change across their life. But they're failing to learn a lesson here with the Page of Pentacles, because they are all of this, because they are failing, because they're refusing to go into the lesson. They're seeing it, recognizing it, because remember, we've also seen this person's awareness of their situation grow. It hasn't necessarily grown enough to where we can say they know exactly what they're doing, but they do see where the lesson is, and they're kind of steering away from that for one reason or another, not wanting to go back into that thinking cave, not wanting to be perceived as someone who gets out of control in their feelings. Like, that's a big fear for them. They don't want to be perceived as somebody who feels too much or is too soft, or there's something like that. They've got a reputation to uphold. But here we see with the Nine of Pentacles, and to a certain degree with the Seven of Pentacles, I'm supposed to turn this one back over, but with the Nine of Chalices, did I say chalices? I hope I did. Okay, so this is Nine of Chalices, which is like the Nine of Cups. This is about knowing what it is that makes you happy and being able to identify that. Also being able to admit it to yourself. So You've got a person who has gone for something that they thought looked really good on paper. It worked well with this King of Chalices need to look a certain way, because there's an egoistic element to that where things, it meshes well with expectations from the parents kind of living, I mean, and I understand that everyone's parents and everyone's family and everyone's expectations are a little bit different, but that's the concept. It's about making sure that they were doing things right, I mean, and so they realized that that wasn't really something that was making them happy, and now they're getting a better feel for what it is that does make them happy. That's what this Nine of Chalices is really all about, but they're still resistant with the Tower in the reverse, with the Hermit in the reverse, with the Page of Pentacles in the reverse. They're kind of they want to remain in the protection of the ego, and they don't want to go back into the thinking cave to have the revelations that are going to create the change that they can already feel is inevitable. That we saw that, we talked about that yesterday. So that is kind of where we find ourselves at the beginning of this situation. So let's see what else. Let's see what else wants to come out for you here. That was just spilled cards. Those weren't supposed to come out. Let's see. We do have something. Okay, so we have the Queen of Wands, and in the reverse, just that one. Queen of Wands in the reverse is just kind of feeling like, because remember, this is all about what is that next step? What are the rest of the messages really that you need to hear? What now, given what we saw yesterday in yesterday's reading, as well as what we saw in that extended? Okay, and I would say that extended kind of felt like, or this feels a little bit like an extended to our extended, so we're just kind of rolling along. And you won't have to watch the extendeds, because I kind of recap them and I kind of talk about here's where we are with the messages. But if you want greater detail, then you can go there for it. So we have the Queen of Wands here in the reverse. Like I said, this is about needing to, it's about needing to understand why it is that you're doing what you're doing, essentially. Why are you going in the direction that you are going in? What is it that you hope to accomplish? What is it that you hope to achieve? But this is a question that feels like it's coming down on both of you a little bit and creating a little bit of pressure. So like we saw yesterday, your person was, I mentioned it earlier, they were having a hard time getting over that activation energy hump. There's a transformation here. They're right there at the edge of it, but they're having a hard time pressing send. They're having a hard time applying to something. They're having a hard time moving forward with something, because there's this fear about letting go of control. And we saw it manifest that both of you in the reading and in the extended, that there was something both of you needed to let go, and it's something different. Okay, so it's not necessarily the same thing, but we did kind of get into a little bit of what it was for them in the extended. But this is going to allow you to get out from under the control of that devil energy, which otherwise it would be very difficult to get. Like, you would have to destroy something in order to get out from under it. When you let go of this, it kind of gently unhooks. I would say that. So they're still very much using some old habits that I get in, I get out, I come in, I do a little bit of love bombing, I get what I need, and then I get out. It's that sort of narcissistic cycle. Not all of them are narcissists, obviously, but certainly the behavior, that defense mechanism, still kind of feels like it. They've got so much energy of manifestation, like they could fly, but there's so much skittish fear of that's just shutting it down. And so, part of it is there is some reckoning that needs to happen here. Understanding what it is that you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing. That's a little bit of, that's for both of you. I feel like maybe intentional or not, that's a little bit of what your person is doing right now. And we definitely saw a need for it in the extended. We got more of an idea of where your person is, what's causing all this. What we learned, even maybe to be careful with any contact right now, because they don't navigate it necessarily as well as what they would have intended. But then there's that information about that new soulmate coming in, which of course we also did look into in the extended. So this Three of Swords comes in here in the reverse. Three of Swords in the reverse is it's a reference to your person having learned some lessons. We've seen this meaning in this card before, where it's about being able to reference lessons, but not necessarily having to feel the pain of them. Like they get a little bit triggered, but then they say, wait a minute, okay, I learned something here and the pain isn't too great. I'm able to make a good decision based on this. But we see that there is a difficult time actually making that decision, because it's more than just here's what I learned. It's also, why am I doing this? So all of this kind of flows together a little bit. They're still really having a hard time figuring out how to move forward. And this is one of the reasons that I think maybe you are to be careful with any contact right now, because it's their intentions are way better than their execution. So let's see. We got the Page of Chalices in the reverse here, which is almost a recap of the recap, because that was a recap of the extended. I mean, at least one of the messages from the extended were, and it came out a couple times, but just to be careful with the contact from them. This is saying their contact is, it's the botched apology feeling that keeps coming up. Like they mean one thing, but it comes out a different way. And it may not be actively an apology, but it's got an energy of that. With the moon, it does not become clear. This is not a conversation where you have much hope of getting things clear, because it is a situation where things kind of, the more talking that happens, the deeper it gets, and the more it seems like something, it's going wrong. I think that might be all of them that turned over. I know I wanted to start from the bottom because that's where the first ones turned over. We have the Nine of Pentacles here. And the Nine of Pentacles is that very reason why we might not see much progress within the body of the conversation, because there's a lot of that feeling, like just not necessarily getting it, not being able to, I'm having a hard time all of a sudden getting the words out, because it's like, here, it's like this. I'm like, great. But it is a little bit of that botched apology, because they're having a hard time articulating it. They're having a hard time getting the words out. We've got the Seven of Swords in the reverse, which is the thing that gets them this far. So even though, I mean, with the energy here of that botched apology and the being scared to reach out, but feeling kind of like they want to, that would just be energy where they remain quiet. The reason it still feels like they're coming toward you, despite that, is this Seven of Swords. This is the work they've already done. It's that inner child piece, if you want to get specific about it. It's that place where they've learned to be there for themselves, where somebody wasn't there for them before. And here we see the Three of Swords coming out again, just like we saw it up here, and meaning something very similar, where they have they really do get to benefit from some of what they've learned, some of the change that they've gone through. They're very much still in the throes of it, though. It's got that feeling of the Six of Wands in the reverse, but also in the upright. I mean, it's a feeling of, let's see here. It's a feeling of victory. It's a feeling of not being there yet, though, still being in the throes of the battle that brings you toward the victory. So there's kind of a positive, where does this go sort of feeling about it. And maybe that's what we'll look into when we get into the extended. I mean, I don't know. I let the questions that pop up in here and that don't get answered kind of go into the extended for us. And that's where we go. And then I kind of rolled right from the extended right into this one last time. So we have the Seven of Chalices and the Sun in reverse. We're starting to see that energy of the missed opportunity again, which is part of, it's like a fear of missing out. And it makes them feel like, oh, I got to get in touch. I really ought to get in touch. It's almost like a nagging feeling that they are going to miss out on your attention if they wait too long. But there's also this feeling that the longer they wait, the more they kind of are getting good at waiting, the more that they're getting good at being quiet, the more they're learning, which also changes things for them, the more they trust themselves, which enables them to reach out. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that they're ready for that. They have not finished the internal reconciliation. And the judgment card popped out there just a second ago. And it felt like, I mean, it can come back, but it felt like an honorable mention. But just to say, there is that feeling of them kind of getting a bird's eye view of their overall life, getting a view of what they're doing, and having to examine a little bit why they're doing it. So they have some choices. And we see that here with the Seven of Chalices. Um, they definitely have some choices to make, but it seems like it's the same kind of feeling as the Seven of Chalices up here. It's wonderful, except for that when you get down to it, practically, it's kind of challenging because you don't know like what realistically is a good choice, because there's so much risk associated with some of these options. Here with the Ten of Chalices, we see that this is kind of like with the Page of Chalices. It was saying, hey, this is going to be a botched apology if it's an apology, most likely. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's the energy of it. The Ten of Chalices is saying they aren't going to get this right. So basically, it's just like it was almost a year ago. It was late April, we started to see people, divine masculines, that were coming back to communicate in droves. And in particular, there were some who were just not the ones you would have expected. They'd been silent for years, and all of a sudden come back and send you a friend request, and you're just thinking that seemed very out of the blue. It was a lot of astrological stuff going on. You had a Mercury retrograde. I think we had a couple of retrogrades that were, but no, I think it was a Mercury retrograde, a full moon, and the end of the closing out of an eclipse cycle. But there was more going on, and there were just these people coming back. And the problem is, when they got there, they didn't know what to do. So they would have this situation where they kind of came in and then they would fade, or they would reblock, or they would disappear again. And it happened a couple times across the course of the year, but that energy is back. So just a heads up, it's still not bad intention, but it just means that it might not be the most fruitful of meetings ever. I'm still curious to see where this goes, because it feels like there's a lot of energy behind it, which absolutely matches with what we've been feeling. We've been having the dreams. I've been getting the notes from you guys, so I can't respond to all the notes that I get. I mean, you guys know that, and depending on how you reach out to me, we might even get like a bounce back note that tells you, an auto reply that tells you there's no way I can possibly respond to all these, but I'll absolutely read them. I do read them. So I know, and I'm usually somewhat up to speed on what's happening with you and what I get in overnight. And so this Eight of Wands, this extremely rapid energy, like the river's flowing more quickly, more forcefully, it does kind of seem like it's bearing out in what I'm hearing from you guys. With the Queen of Chalices, though, there's a lot of triggering that's happening on their side that isn't happening on yours. So there's been healing both sides. We see that. But it's not lining up. Like, it's not lining up and aligning because the two of you are in very different places. And here's that Six of Wands. Still very much in the throes of it. This is why that conversation might not be a fruitful one right now, but the Eight of Wands is the energy behind why it might just happen anyway. So, I mean, let's see when we get into the piece around you. So we'll get into the piece around you here in a minute. Hopefully, maybe a little bit of what comes out is what to do in this situation. Although in the past, you've gotten a lot of be considerate and gentle, because even though they kind of dip back out again, they do take what you say and incorporate it in that next round of learning. Also, there's no need to regret or do it greatly reduces the amount of damage control on your side. If you're gentle with them when they come in, it's easier, it's much more defensible, but also make sure that you're establishing your boundaries and having your boundaries in the right place. You can do that and be gentle at the same time. Takes a little practice, but this is what you're learning right now. This is part of the lesson. So let's go into the you part of the lesson. We're gonna, when we get into the extended, we are gonna look to see at the, we got into this with a so what next sort of attitude, and that's exactly where we're headed with the extended, because just to dig in a little bit deeper with, well, what does that mean is likely to happen? We've got a lot of pressure, and it's like building up against something that can't take the pressure or shows signs of not being able to take the pressure, and is still very much in the process of learning something, but communication looks like it may be imminent. And if you're in contact, then it's communication on a certain topic that is potentially a little bit tough, maybe. Could be a big one to attack. So before we do that, though, we'll get into the you portion of the reading. So what is it that you need to be focused on based on what is on this table, and where you are with your lessons right now? And so remember, we talked a little bit about, we had something about a soulmate coming in that showed up in the you portion of the reading yesterday, which of course we looked into in the extended. But it was like it was someone that you didn't see coming right off the bat. You got your Page of Wands. There's your curiosity. You got your King of Swords, which is keep your wits about you, but don't get too far up into your head. You have your Two of Wands and your King of Cups. You get all four of these. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm curious to see if anything will... Ooh, I've got these upside down. I'm curious to see if anything will come in for you over the soulmate portion of this. But what I see right now is basically, here's how you want to be carrying yourself. Because I don't know that the soulmate makes themselves... you don't necessarily become aware of what's going on there immediately. Like I said, it's someone you don't necessarily see coming right off the bat. The time might not be now. So just be sure to... be doing things for the right reasons, really. I mean, that's honestly, if it's reasons that you later can look back at and say, no, I still feel pretty good about this, then that is, that's where you want to go. This King of Cups is a reminder to make sure that you are continuing along with integrity, walking the high road, not doing things just for egoistic reasons, even though it also talks about doing things for egoistic reasons, and kind of takes some of the stigma away from that, the way that this feels. Because it's like, listen, the ego is there to protect you. And until you are ready to fend for yourself, until your Seven of Swords is also in the reverse, talking about that, that self-trust, then that's what the ego is there for, so that you don't break before you get to the point where you're able to defend yourself. So the ego isn't inherently bad, but as you slough the need for it, you also need to allow it to peel back as if you're shedding your skin. So this King of Cups is kind of a reminder to do that. And so if you let integrity guide your actions, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, you're going to be fine, whether you're doing it in front of a person you don't realize is your soulmate or not. With the Two of Wands, it's about making sure that you stick with your values, that you understand what your values are, and if they need to change, because maybe like your person, and we know this is true of you a little bit, some of the values that were kind of drilled into you as you were growing up are not necessarily the ones that you want to live by. You may need to make some small tweaks to those, and this is a time that doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 20, you could be 50, you could be 70. There's no time like the present to make sure you're living by what are actually your own values. It can be challenging, though. Certainly, some of that third-party energy comes from family who is discouraging some sort of movement into what looks like values that don't mesh with that of the family. So, there's some element of that here as well. But it's about just examining it and understanding what it is. And that's where the King of Swords energy comes in. Then the Page of Wands, there is that curiosity that's ready to go, ready to launch right into transformation, despite the fact that there's already been maybe some transformation going on here. And we know there has with these lessons. More transformation coming. You're going to get into a situation you don't feel trained for. So this is like one of those things. So I do a lot of like corporate coaching, corporate coaching, mentoring, because I've been in the corporate world for my whole adult life, just about. And so now I'm pretty far into my career, and I do a lot of mentoring and telling people you sometimes have to jump into things that you don't necessarily feel like you're thoroughly prepared for. So you look at a job description and you think, I can do at least 60% of this. is maybe that's a scary place to jump in, but it may also be the place to jump in. If you are predisposed toward learning the other 40% and a quick learner, maybe you just jump in and maybe you just take that step. And maybe that's kind of what needs to happen. And that's kind of what I think is happening here with you, and something that you're going to jump into that feels like, I'm in no way prepared for this. I've never flown a rocket, Okay, so first time for everything. Basically that's what it is. So you have a proclivity toward overthinking, and you're going to want to work away from that, because it's going to, I don't think it necessarily slows you down or causes you to miss significant opportunities. Certainly not those that don't come back, but you won't enjoy it as much. So make sure that you're kind of opening yourself up to the experience, because there's a lot of wonderment to be had here. And it feels great because okay, so the lessons that you've already learned have allowed you to recognize what some of your boundaries might be. So if this person is heading back your direction, if this communication that I feel here, or this loving action that I feel here, is coming from this person, this is you being able to stand on your own 2 feet while you have this, even if they throw you for another loop and re-trigger you. You come out of it so much more easily because of the work that you've already done, because of the way that you already know where those boundaries need to be here with the Six of Pentacles, and how to treat yourself. So that's pretty significant. And that's one of the things that you are going to probably, I feel like I say this a lot, but you're going to want to take some time to recognize the progress you've made, and to think, well, so what does that mean for us next? I could swear I saw something that was turned over. Yeah. Ooh, Ace of Chalices. Well, there's that. And that's exactly how the soulmate feels like coming in. Like you're shuffling and you're just like, did I just see that? So yeah, you see it. That's real. that's the Ace of Chalices. It's like the Ace of Cups. It's new love. And it feels like new interaction with a soulmate. So someone that, like I said, you may not have seen this coming. You might not recognize them for what they are, or it might have been a really slow build. Knight of Wands here in the reverse. So it's a slow build, and it's a slow developing thing. What might trigger you about this, because we saw that there would be some triggering there, came up a couple of times. They get in and out, this one. Partially because they don't recognize what's going on with it either. It's not intentional, and this is where you start to figure out the intention piece. There's also going to be something a little star-crossed about this, but I don't get the sense that the lessons are as brutal. I really don't, because I keep just feeling like this set of lessons is like a vacation compared with the last one. But we have the struggle. The struggle all seems to come from within your pushback. I mean, it's all your resistance. It's all coming from in you. So that's great, because all of a sudden, here's your thing to let go. It's needing to control the timing and the situation. You let go of that, and all of a sudden, this devil energy has no control over you, and you're just floating along, and it doesn't matter how fast this river goes. So the key for you is to just let go of, and I say just, I don't mean to diminish it, but it's letting go of the assumptions and the expectations around what's likely to happen. Because again, and we keep seeing it, you limit it when you do that. Also recognize your limitations right now. And so your limitations, I don't say that very often, but let me clarify, because it's going to help make you stronger, because you're going to know. It's like when you're hiking and you're trying to decide where to set your foot, and you're in rocky, rolling rock territory, and you realize that you want to, you're going uphill, and you need to be sure-footed. This is that sure-footed emperor. This is that feeling that, yeah, I know exactly where to go. And it's because of recognizing, I said your weakness, or what did I say? Your boundaries or your limitations. It's really about recognizing the edges of your healing. Like, how far has your healing made it? Oh, not beyond this point. Okay. Recognizing that and kind of playing to it. Okay. Because that's going to enable you to work on this next slice of lessons. But again, it ends up being a much more pleasant experience. And that feels like for a number of reasons. So I'm glad some of that came out. I was hoping we'd hear a little bit about the soulmate in here, and maybe how you can navigate that, because it all bounces off of this energy. And so it's what are you doing to manage this? Because this one's kind of still coming out you, but you're getting something new coming your direction. And how do you absorb that without kind of deflecting it out of this fear and this struggle that you have that is very legitimate, but you need to kind of work through it because it's something that happened. It's trauma that occurred, not it occurred on top of the trauma you were already addressing, and it occurred as a result of this relationship where both of you have been clearing tons of trauma. So we're going to look into kind of what's going to happen next. That's where we start. It's the "and so what." It doesn't always tell us what the events are, but it is incredibly helpful in understanding the sway of the energy and kind of the flow of it. So that's what we're going to look at when we get into the extended. Hopefully, I get to see you there. The link is down below. If not, then I will see you again in tomorrow's reading.